Hey folks, this is Alan from ImportantFun.com, and I've been doing a semi-regular thing on the blog where I take a RPG system and run a quick one-shot with some of my friends just to kind of suss it out and do a quick review so that people can see what it's like playing games other than Dungeons and Dragons. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of D&D, and I think it actually gets kind of a bad rap from people who think that, oh, since it's too mainstream, we can't play it. But I have been trying a lot of sort of indie or non Wizards of the Coast games lately, and usually when I read through the rules for one of these games, it'll either A, make me immediately be like, I don't quite know so much about this game, or B, make me immediately fall in love with it and want to, start a whole new campaign running this system, or possibly even, steal some of the ideas from that game to put in something else. Uh, and one game more than any that I've read recently that has just totally made me fall in love is Stars Without Number. So Stars Without Number is a very D&D inspired, especially sort of the earlier original editions of D&D inspired game set in space. But this isn't just like a OSR clone of D&D modded to be in space. This is a very modern style RPG. It's not just about dungeon crawling. There's lots of great sort of advice on making adventures and making campaigns, making an open sandbox sort of system. So it's great, perfectly designed for a campaign where you just want to sort of generate a rough outline of an entire, section of the galaxy, give your players a spaceship, and be like, go explore. So that sort of like hex crawly, very exploration focused play style in a sci-fi setting is exactly what Stars Without Number is for. Before I go any further, one thing I have to point out is that the game is free, which is really great. They have a deluxe version available for purchase, but there is a completely free version, which is over 240 pages long, and it has everything you need. This goes beyond even sort of like, say, the model that Wizards of the Coast has done with the D&D basic set, which I think is really great, but also, doesn't have all the options available if you get the Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide and Monster Manual. This is a fairly comprehensive system available for free download. So just got to mention that. Love that it's free. The only thing I really don't like about the free rulebook is that there's no starter adventure in there. This is kind of, I think, because the philosophy of the game is very much based on your character's motivations and going out and exploring. But I think that it's still nice to have something to jump right into where it's like, okay, I've read the rules, we can make some characters real quick, let's get started with this. It helps the players get established with their characters and maybe like, oh, maybe this will be my motivation, and then you can go from there. I think it also helps sort of explain the tone of the game a little more if there's something in that, because I'm still not sure exactly. I kind of have an idea of how I would run a Stars Without Number campaign, but I'm kind of unsure what the author's intent is, which, does that matter? Maybe not. But anyways, back into the rulebook. It's, like I said, very similar to old school D&D. You've got the exact same 6 ability scores on a 3 to 18 scale. And there's a lot of charts in there, which again harkens back to sort of the early editions, which is what I got started on actually. A little bit later than they were relevant, but that's what I got started with, some like first and second edition rule books. And especially for the sandbox style, it's really great because there are all these cool charts for like, okay, uh, players have gone to a new star system. Let's see, like, what's the theme of one of the planets are and what its atmosphere is going to be like. And, in addition to all those crunchy details, the theme is really important because it'll have all sorts of stuff like maybe it's a paradise planet, maybe it's a planet full of zombies, maybe it's a like barbarian planet where even though it's a sci-fi setting on this planet, it's like very Conan style, or maybe even there could be a planet where it's a straight up like Forgotten Realms style, typical D&D fantasy, or maybe a more modern day thing. It's very much in the original series Star Trek style of you go to a random planet and then there's Nazis there or something. Like who knew? We'll use this planet to say something very overt and explicit about like race relations. And so that's really cool, and it's cool that the rules help you build that instead of just saying, hey, you could do this and use your own imagination like 100%. Here's some sort of like guide, maybe not guidelines, but here's some inspiration to go off of. So yeah, the core rules really cool. I've mentioned in another blog post how there's a rule in there called shock, where if you're in hand-to-hand melee combat, you're almost guaranteed to deal and take damage. This is really cool. It kind of reminds me of any of the Apocalypse World or Powered by the Apocalypse role-playing games, where it's like you have to know going into combat that like bad things are going to happen. And so that's a really cool flavor I like as well. Character creation is super easy. A lot of good options for doing randomly generated characters, which I think more games need to take advantage of. And I think it partially works because this is sort of a pro and a con, but the character classes are more like specializing in a certain thing, but still able to do everything really well. We see that a little more in D&D 5th edition than we did in, say, like 4th or even 3rd. But it's still like, if you play a wizard versus a monk versus a fighter, even if we throw out wizard, like if you're playing a monk or a fighter, like those are going to be very different play styles. And when you've got classes that are much more similar, I think that makes a randomly generated character work a lot better because you're never going to miss out on too much. The only kind of like I said, downside of that though is that I wonder how sustainable it is. This is a problem I see in actually a lot of games when you compare them to Dungeons and Dragons, especially like 5th edition, is that D&D always has something around the corner, like, oh, when I level up, I'm not only going to get like slightly higher numbers in a few things, but I might get a cool new ability for my Battlemaster fighter, or like if you're playing a spellcaster, every couple levels you're going to get not only more powerful spells, but a whole new tier of spells that you didn't even have access to that type before. And there's definitely character progression in Stars Without Number, but having only played it once, I can't really speak to how well that works. But yeah, that's basically my review in a nutshell. I think it's a really cool game, and it the only opportunity cost to try it is time. It's free. If you've played D&D before, it'll be a really easy read. It's not like trying to get into something with a completely different mechanic and like you have to puzzle over what all this stuff does. It's like there's armor class, there's 2-hit bonuses, super great. And I suggest everyone go and check it out. It can be found on DriveThruRPG. Just search for Stars Without Number. Yeah, thank you very much for watching this little review.